Good morning, everyone. It's Mr. Jeff from the Ridgewood Public Library. I hope you're all doing well and staying happy and healthy at home with your families. Today, we're going to be starting off with an activity, reading a book, and ending with another activity. But first, we have to start with our good morning song. So we're going to say hello to the girls, then the boys, and then the grown-ups. Are you ready? Here we go. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, my darling. Hello to the girls. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hello to the girls. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, my darling. Hello to the boys. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hello to the boys. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, my darling. Hello to the grown-ups. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hello to the grown-ups. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, my darling. All right, welcome and good morning. So, today's theme is all about mustaches, like the one Mr. Jeff has right here. So let's start off with a fun little rhyme about mustaches. My father has a mustache, my mother has one too. When I get older, I'll have a big mustache too. Mustache, mustache, a big bushy mustache for me and you. Mustache, mustache, I've got a great mustache. Do you? All right, great job. Now, let's read about a moose and his mustache in one of my favorite books of all time, Mustache. Let's jump right in. Moose had a problem, a horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. A mustache. Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble. No mere weak wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No sirree. Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty mustache. But a mustache that was a burly, surly, mangy mess, and it itched a lot. Sure, he plucked and he tweezed, he even clipped, snipped, and teased, but his combs were still cowards, and his brushes rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The mustache was completely crimping his style. He was a great hoofer, but he could barely bop and hip-hop with a mustache going flip-flop. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his souffle with all of those whiskers in his way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with the mighty mustache blowing in his face? Moose had to do something, and soon. But what? What do you think Moose is gonna do with his mustache? Take a guess. All right, let's find out. After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his mustache around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. But then his mustache got knotted and mangled and horribly tangled, and those hundreds of hairs still prickled and tickled. Worse, Moose could barely take a breath with all that mustache wrapped around his neck. So Moose untied, unwrapped, unknotted, and gulped in some fresh air. He got another idea. He parted some hair this way, he parted some hair that way, and he heaped all that mustache on top of his head. Mustachioed antlers seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. Until, a squadron of squirrels and one very nosy gopher moved right into the Moose Motel. They huddled and hoarded, burrowed in, burrowed out. Needless to say, it became quite crowded up there on Moose's head, and heavy, and messy. And very, very noisy. The squirrely chitting and chatting, squeals and squawks woke Moose every morning before the crack of dawn, and that gopher was giving the moose one hairy headache. Moose needed his sleep, he needed his rest, he needed his privacy. Mustachioed antlers, nuts, said Moose. So he unparted and unpiled, untwisted and untwined, and said adios to the hairy horns. But now what? What? The miserable moose took hold of a hunk of hair and he wrestled it, then roped it. He tethered, tied, tamed, aha! A moose tail! Now that was so simple, that was so easy, that was not so perfectly perfect. Talk about a dizzy do! Moose didn't know if he was coming or going. Backward, forward, this way, that. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. And so he thought, and thought, and thought some more, but no other idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother, a mustache sweater too sweltering, net not. Poor Moose, his problem was truly terrible, unbearable, just downright sad. He felt so alone, he didn't know what else to do. What do you think poor Moose is going to do with his mustache? What do you think? Then, call it fate, call it destiny, it was probably dumb luck. But one day, Moose tripped on his mustache and just had no time to duck. Oomph! pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked, and they stared, and their hearts went thump thump. She was a moose with a bouffant so bodacious, outrageous, well, it was just plain old big. Hair after hair piled higher than high, a skyscraping dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. Of course, Moose had to ask how she did what she did to get such a do. Miss Moose winked and then whispered, "Just a little glue." So, she helped he fearlessly plunge a hoof into a fat pot of the white gooey goop, and carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped. They pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and curled every truly unruly wayward whisker. Around and around they tweaked and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mess was now a wondrous winding wave of marvelous moustache. Moose gazed in the mirror and smiled a broad moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, just giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome, Moose gushed. "Is that really me?" With not a care for one hair, the moose pair boogied and bopped. They skied downhill, even uphill, and their cooking was hot, hot, hot. So, of course, it wasn't long after that Moose and his moustache and his beautiful bride fox-trotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days, they vowed to love and to cherish. And with hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop, they both sighed, "I do," glue, and promised never to part. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect, and it stuck. All right, great listening, great listening. Next on the board here, just like Moose in the book, we've got a moose with a mustache. His name is Mr. Lou. Say hello, hello, Mr. Lou. So, let's do a fun little activity about Mr. Lou's mustache. There once lived a moose named Mr. Lou. He had a mustache that grew and grew. By Monday, it was as tiny as his nose. By Tuesday, on and on it grows. By Wednesday, it stretched as far as his ears. By Thursday, it looked as if it had grown for years. But on Friday, Mr. Lou caught the flu. Achoo! And off went the mustache, and it flew and flew. All right, Mr. Lou doesn't have a mustache anymore, right? All right, great job, great job. So that's just about all the time we have for today. Let's sing our goodbye song now. Well, my hands say thank you with a clap, 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 and my feet say thank you with a tap, 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 clap, clap, clap. Tap, 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 I shake my hands and say goodbye. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you all again real soon. Bye.